Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Ben Jones of Skipcart. Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for having me.
Great. So what was your background before joining Skipcart? What did you do before this one?
So before I started Skipcart, I actually was not in the tech industry. I was an entrepreneur in the oil and gas industry, more on the service side, working for big companies like Schlumberger and Halliburton on a service and manufacturing level as an entrepreneur, and originally with the large employer, and then I caught the bug of entrepreneurship and decided to go out on my own. And that was history before actually getting into the Skipcart tech space.
Great. So what led you to start working in the last mile delivery space? Why did you choose that one?
So it's funny the way it happened. I actually had no intention of getting into this space, into last mile delivery or being in tech in general, but there was an acquisition that happened with Amazon and Whole Foods, which I'm sure you're familiar with, a couple of years ago. And one of my friends worked for a large retailer that was in Texas, and they just said, hey, in order to compete with Amazon, we need to get into delivery, because grocery delivery was a driving force it was actually kind of the next level from the e-commerce. So, you're shipping books and windshield wipers, but the next place for Amazon to go was the grocery delivery space. And so at that time, upon that acquisition, I believe it was a major change in the industry to see, like, okay, this is serious, that grocery delivery is the next turn of events. And so I started talking to him, and I said, you know what, this seems like there's a really good opportunity here, and started investigating it and seeing that over the last 5-10 years, there had been a whole lot of advancement into it. And so I decided to kind of piggyback that, and not piggyback that, but kind of pioneer what we're doing now, and to get into the last mile delivery and taking groceries to the customer on a level that was on a very large scale.
So that's very interesting how you came into it. I remember the Amazon acquisition of Whole Foods, and was always wondering about how that was going to shape up. But in general, what's your advice for investors who are investing in the last mile delivery space? What would you tell them before they write that first check?
So there's a lot of different companies in the last mile space. I think the thing is at this point in where we're at today, I think you really have to say, how does it compete with some of the major brands out there? And then the major brand I always kind of set as a baseline is an Amazon. Is in 5 years, are they going to be able to keep up with the technology that's out there, which is the Amazon that's putting out, or the UPS or the FedEx or the Walmarts of the world? Are you going to be able to keep up with that? And if you can, and if you've got a technology that says you can, because it's a big country out there, there's a lot of opportunity in there, and there's a lot of room for competition. But if your technology is not there to be able to compete with that, and your infrastructure is not there to be able to compete with that, I believe a lot of these companies that are in this last mile space struggle with that, because they don't do it. They don't keep innovative enough with the technology side. It's more dashboards, and it's not app-based. It's more of a system that is like we have a dashboard of jobs that come in. The job come in, they get dispatched out to drivers. It needs to be a seamless flow from the time the customer orders to the time that the delivery is made. That is all one seamless step that the customer never really sees, and that the cost is low through that whole entire process. And so I believe technology companies that can keep up with those big companies are the ones that are going to succeed in that and worth investing in.
That's good advice. So overall, how is the industry evolving for the last mile delivery space? We talked about this being the next big thing, but what do you see happening in it today as far as its evolution and growth?
So it's changed so much just over the last 2 years. I mean, what we're seeing in last mile delivery now is there's been a lot of technology just kind of came and gone. We saw drones for a while there, and then we looked at robotics as being kind of the next level. Well, those are kind of far out. So what we're seeing in last mile delivery is we're seeing white label last mile delivery be kind of the next level for companies. And what I mean by white label is they don't own the logistics side of it. So if you're going to order from a retailer or a restaurant, right, the whole process of the order process is going to be done through done through that restaurant or that retailer's site, and it's going to be pushed out to a third party company that is handling the last mile logistics. Now, what we're seeing today is that the last mile is evolving because it used to go from an in-house full-time staff person to be able to manage that whole process. Like if you order, let's just go with Pizza Hut because that's the easiest comparison. So Pizza Hut, what would happen is a customer would go through Pizza Hut, order their pizza, and then they would set up the last mile, which is getting it to the customer to do delivery, or get Pizza Hut to do delivery to the customer. Now, and that's not a seamless process because you have somebody sitting there waiting. You don't know how many deliveries are going to be done. Now, the last mile logistics is outsourcing that to a third party company that's a tech company, whether myself or any of these plenty of companies that are out there. Is that process is the customer orders it at any point in time, and that goes over to the third party company who then just through their crowdsourced network of drivers is able to fulfill that last mile at a very low cost. And so these restaurants don't have to have like somebody sitting on idle for, let's say, one or two orders during a busy 2:00 hour when they're trying to prepare for the 5:00 hour. So it's becoming low cost, and it's becoming where restaurants and retailers are starting to adopt this to trying to outsource this to help them with the growing demand. Because we're in the world now where we expect everything as soon as possible, right? And last mile used to be the really expensive part of this process because what it would take, if you're shipping a product from a warehouse or whatever it may be, it would cost a lot to get it from the last distribution point to the customer. But now what they're doing is they're just making it to where you can get it here locally and be able to get it to the customer at a very low cost. And so there's a lot of adopting that's going on across the market, across the sectors on this last mile logistics.
So it's a major change in how products are delivered and so forth. And so major changes usually come with major challenges. What are the challenges you see in this space from a regulatory or technical or market point of view?
So we are in the last mile space. I think our biggest thing is we're in the crowdsource space. So we are 10,000 plus drivers across the market. Our biggest challenge today is getting drivers or getting customers at the same level so drivers, we call them Skipcart drivers, but Skipcart drivers today, people aren't used to these apps that are these jobs that are gig jobs quite yet, where it's like, I can go out and I can make money whenever I want to make money. I can make an income wherever I want to make an income without having to do a 9-to-5 job. And so kind of getting people in general to adopt to that, which is be our third party contractors to be able to adopt to that. And at the same level to keep that supply for these drivers at a level that keeps them busy to where they can go make a income that would compare to having a full-time job, is getting that balance right from retailers, from restaurants, and the drivers all together to get that happening. And from the technology side of it because we outsource last mile, and anybody that outsources last mile logistics, you want to make it as low as cost as possible. So you want to make, from the technology side, there's the technology side of it, is how do you assign a driver who is going home to his address in, let's say, northern Toledo, Ohio? How can we optimize his route as much as possible to say, okay, we've got orders that are on your route home, that's on your way home, to be able to get to your house at a low cost to where he keeps coming back because he doesn't want to go all the way across town. So how do we optimize that? To orders come in, to optimize, there's an algorithm that we actually do it today that says you can pick up this order and you can pick up this order on your way home as soon as you get off of work or whatever it is, because everybody works on different schedules. And so getting the technology caught up to that level to where on an ecosystem that's on a national level for us is how do you do that and optimize it with tens of thousands of drivers at a time, being able to do that and tens of thousands of orders at a time. And that's what we're trying to build. And that's what we're trying to solve.
So how does Skipcart fit into this landscape?
So Skipcart we're a little different, I would say, on the last mile delivery because we're crowdsourced. So a lot of companies that were in this prior to white label delivery they have full-time employees, they have dispatchers. So we are 100% white label crowdsourced. So what we do is we basically take the orders that come in through the retailers for the restaurants, and the whole seamless process, like I said earlier, is done through that restaurant. And the customer doesn't see anything different. If you're going to order, but they're not a partner of ours, we'll just go with Subway because it's easy. If you're going to order from Subway and you wanted to get it delivered to your house, you want to do it through their app and you want to pick delivery, you don't care about what goes on the back end. What we would do is we would actually be the ones that carry out that last mile delivery. We would just through a crowdsourced network. And that's a little bit different than what we see on crowdsource out there. It's 100% crowdsourced. It's 100% app based. It's I don't want to do it as a comparison, but it's the Uber of white label delivery for retailers and restaurants.
So how does Skipcart fit into this overall landscape as far as, you mentioned the technology, you mentioned the growth of the drivers and the importance of the space, but what position would you put Skipcart in at this stage?
Yeah, so I would say that Skipcart as a competitor, I would be a fast follower is what I would call us today. I wouldn't say we're the ones that pioneered the whole entire industry, but I would say we're a very fast follower. We operate in a space where I believe that I would consider today UPS and FedEx a competitor of mine just because of the space we're in, because we're no longer in the last mile logistics. We are in the logistics space. We are in the last mile, not just last mile, but we're in the logistics space, package fulfillment space. And so I would say we're a fast follower compared to maybe not people that are here today, but some companies that were around in the early 2000s that tried this, but tech wasn't quite there. But I would say we're a very fast moving company in this space. And we're trying to solve the problem of giving low cost, and that's the key factor, is low cost, last mile delivery to anything you want delivered in America.
Well, it sounds like you're at the right place at the right time with the right technology. In the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the space in general. We're excited about seeing what the space is evolving to. I know we talked about it earlier, what the industry is evolving to, but today we've got some programs that we're looking at putting into tests next year into robotics and driverless cars and things like that, just to test those out and to see how can you manage a delivery from a driverless vehicle, and that's food delivery, that's grocery delivery, and then also kind of how the space has evolved into the drones, that drone technology. Just we're excited to kind of see that evolve. We think it's a far way off. We just think there's too many regulations on this, but the industry in itself, we're really excited about seeing what the robotics and driverless cars are going to do to this industry and how it's going to continue to maintain a low-cost delivery for retailers and restaurants on a national and possibly global level.
Well, it's amazing to see how fast and how far it's come in such a short amount of time. It looks like you guys are on the leading edge of it. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find out about Skipcart by visiting our website at skipcart.com. Or you can connect with myself or many of the employees at Skipcart on LinkedIn.
Well, great. We'll put those in the show notes and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Okay, thanks so much.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.